I greet you with Jesus' joy, for it is in him that I live, breathe, move, and have my very being. Today's episode is called Family Matters, and I am so delighted that you joined Unboxed on Purpose today, a podcast created for Favored by the Father Ministries. I am Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon, your host, and our featured guests always share how they stepped out of personal comfort zones to become unboxed. We share experiences that lead to ultimate purpose and fulfillment. I do pray that each episode will help our audience access their authentic destiny. Our guest today is none other than Carolyn Daly. Let me add her to our stage. There she is. Carolyn Daly is from New Jersey, and she is a New Jersey Supreme Court certified matrimonial law attorney who prides herself on pragmatic, no-nonsense approaches for resolving family law matters in a manner that best serves her clients and their families. Carolyn is trained in collaborative divorce mediation, parent coordination, and arbitration. She has significant experience in handling litigation, domestic violence, custody and parenting time, alimony, child support, and the list goes on and on. Prior to establishing her current family law practice, Carolyn Daly gained experience in several different areas of law, giving her a unique perspective that allows her to identify issues that family law practitioners often overlook. She is a frequent speaker, and I'm so happy to share that she is a volunteer attorney for the Battered Women's Legal Advocacy Project. And she also is a volunteer attorney as Partners for Women in Justice, if I'm getting that correct. Oh, she's got numerous awards, and she's been listed in super lawyers lists of New Jersey several times. And oh my gosh, you can see why our title today is Family Matters. Let's just stop the introduction and go ahead and start talking to Carolyn. Hey, Carolyn, how are you today?
I'm great today, Barbara. Thank you so much for reaching out and asking me to have this conversation with you. I look forward to it.
Great, great, great. I am so glad that you are here, and I'm glad because of who it is that you are in the world, that you allowed yourself to be in this stage with us. I would love for you to tell our audience how we met.
We actually met through a coaching program. I'm blinded, and we ended up dropped into a room with each other one morning, having never met, and had a very open and profound discussion about being and decisions you make and wanting to make impact and trying to find your way. And so I was having a particularly difficult morning, and Barbara and I walked through a lot of stuff, and it was really great. I was very happy to have met her that morning. And as I always say, things don't happen by circumstance, they are happenstance. You're placed where you need to be at the time you need to be there.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And I was amazed at how God just dropped into me something that I could share with you that hopefully made your day a little bit better. And so as you help me to sojourn through this 30-minute episode today, I'm going to ask you to go all the way back to your childhood and teen years and ask you to just share briefly about your passion in life back in those days. Where'd you live, and what was life like in the life of Carolyn?
So I grew up not far from where I have been practicing law for the past 26 years in a small town called Randolph, New Jersey. I'm now at Morristown. My current practice is in Newark, but for the last 20 some odd years, I was in Morristown. And I always thought back then, I would never have imagined that I ended up like 15 miles from where I grew up at the end of my, in my career and in my practice as a child. I was very much about helping others. I don't think I really knew that's what it was, and connecting people and making sure everyone around me was okay. And it's sort of what I did when I was young, but I was really passionate about travel and learning about other people. And so in my high school years, I had the opportunity to be an exchange student over a summer to Germany. My first choice was France. That was the language I was studying in high school. But lo and behold, it was Germany. So not a language I had a lot of information about or facility with, but I went and I learned a lot. And I got to see a different perspective of the world. And then in college, following on the same idea, I spent a semester in London. That was during the Gulf War, so it was sort of interesting. Now I'm dating myself. And then the following summer, I was in Russia, and that was the language I was learning and speaking at the time. And so I thought, here I am. I'm going to graduate college, and I'm going to do something in international realm. I'm going to work for a company in a foreign country, or I'm going to do something else. But let's just say the universe had different plans, and I took a year off, and my mother said, I think you should go to law school. So thus began my illustrious career as my mother focused me and put me on a path. So that was sort of my childhood up to where I ended up in law.
Isn't that amazing? And as I hear you talk about that, I would love to hear you transfer that passion that you had for helping people into your identity now. How would you describe yourself now?
I would say that my unique identity is that I practice family law differently than many others do. There are still a handful who practice as I do, but my goal is really to serve the client, because I am in a service industry, which I think people sometimes forget. And so
Mm.
my first question to clients all the time when they come in to see me is, how can I help?
Uh,
And I want them to tell me what it is they are looking to achieve, and not what they read on the internet and not what their friend's divorce looked like. And I spend a lot of time asking questions to get to what it is they are really hoping their outcome would be. And so I think that makes me different, because I really and truly listen to the client and try to serve what serves them, their family, and what their outcomes are, as opposed to what everybody expects when you get a divorce. Okay, we divide everything 50-50, and we, every other weekend with kids. I'm not a one size fits all. I'm much more interested in being creative and helping people achieve what they are hoping to achieve.
so I can hear that every time the door opens with a new client, it's not the same as the time before. And to
It's
be able
not.
to hear people and make them know that they're being seen and appreciated and listened to is so crucial. As you've done what you've done in life through this point, who was your biggest influence?
So I think that I had a number of people who were influences on me in terms of my legal career, but I think my parents were really my biggest influence.
Ah,
They believed in me. They recognized my strengths and my weaknesses. My mother would always say, "You could probably do anything you put your mind to, so let's pick something." Pros and cons there. We can unpack that some other time. But I also think that in law, I had very good mentors that I worked with, and judges that I appeared in front of. And I watched, I listened, and I learned. And I think, the ability to sort of take from learning from everybody instead of just saying it's one person. Um, I think that allows you to really become better at what you do, as long as you have no ego in it. I've had people come up to me and later in my career and say, can I have can I talk to you? I just have a thought on something. Absolutely. Absolutely. Always ready to learn. There is always something else to learn.
I love that about you as we share together on the program that you talked about before, Unblinded. And every time I hear you speaking, there is always something that can be learned about the way that you listen and the way that you actually do refer back to people and glean something from every single circumstance and every single opportunity. And I so appreciate you for that. So now we're ready to just drop all the puzzle pieces out of this box of yours and see how
Okay.
God puts them back together. Okay. Have you ever
Okay.
felt boxed in? You want to tell us about that crucial time, just one, that you stepped out of a box and how that shaped you into how you are right now?
Yeah. So I think that I felt very boxed in by the decision that and I say my mother, lover, made to have me become a lawyer. And so I think that um, that was a pretty impactful and way to put me sort of in the box that that was going to be my career and what I did. And I'm still in that box to a certain extent, but I have made changes to what it is that I think people's expectations are in terms of what I have done in the last few years. So I would say that I made a decision 2 years ago that I was going to join a larger firm. I truly wanted to build at a practice where I could have a larger impact and train other lawyers and work with other lawyers similarly minded, and do better in serving the public as they embark on issues relating to their family, whether it's divorce or custody or alimony or child support or grandparents' rights or domestic violence, in a better way than what I think what they have been receiving in the past few years and maybe even beyond. So I think that that is how I have sort of stepped out of the box, that I'm going to try to approach the practice of family law very differently.
You using that word try, but with everything that you keep saying, you keep demonstrating to me, at least, I hope the rest of the audience as well, that you're definitely doing that, because everything that you say points to the client. I don't hear you saying anything that points back to you and how you are going to receive or benefit. You seem to be holistically entrenched in what is best for the families that come to you. And so we title this thing Family Matters, because that's what the crux is of the work that it is that I believe God has called you to do. And so I'm so grateful that you're here to share this with us, because somebody out there is hearing your story and they're caught between and betwixt ideas and decisions. And I believe that they're going to be pushed a little bit closer to outside of their own box, because they will resonate with something that you're saying today. And so my prayer is for our listeners, whether they're viewing or just doing the listening on one of the podcast stations, to access their own destiny. And so, as you consider your ultimate purpose, we've talked about your childhood and teenage years and time overseas, your schooling with college, and your ultimate passion, which is coming out. Really, you're still helping people in terms of the law practice, and the more the larger the practice, the more people you impact. And that's huge, not because of the size of the law practice, but because of the lives that you touch. So, what do you consider ultimately, looking back over all of it, ultimately your purpose? The
So
big
that's a great
purpose.
question. Yeah, I think that's a great question. I ask myself that a lot. I'll be honest. I sometimes will say, what is it that you want me to achieve? I know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm here for a reason, because I've tried over the course of my career to step out of family law only to be put back in it. So clearly someone has a purpose for me here. And I often say, well, could you enlighten me and tell me what it is that you think that ultimate purpose is? I'm listening. Um, I don't always have answers. I think the answer to me is, and I think I never really have fully appreciated is to help those who come in to see me, to get through a time and to emerge on the other side whole and resolved, and hopefully with more of what they wanted to achieve, even though maybe another lawyer wouldn't help them to do it or allow them to do it. Um, because I think that it's so important for people to feel like that they have a stake in what the outcomes are, and not simply to be dragged along. I've had clients who say to me, what would you do? The answer is not what I would do. It's what do you want to do? I'm going to tell you how to get there as best I can, and be pragmatic about it, and try to figure it out. So I think my purpose is really to have an impact on my clients, who then will have impact on others, and to have an impact on those lawyers who work with me or that are my associates, and even the partners that I've worked with. I think that is really my greater purpose. It's to make a difference and to have the ripple effect sort of work out from there. And hopefully at the end of the day, that creates some sort of a change somewhere. And I think I've accepted, even if that change is smaller and not such big grandiose idea. We talked about it when you and I were in the room, right, talking, the grandiose idea, that thinking I'm going to change the whole system. Well, maybe I won't, but maybe I will have changed it for 5, 10, 20, 100 people, who then may have an impact that will help others people to navigate it and change what is happening with them.
What I'm also hearing is how your personal philosophy toward the work that you do has to make a difference with the people with whom you work, your peers, your colleagues, your partner in the law firm. And there are people who are basically looking up to you as a mentor, as a model. And so you are teaching and reaching families that you may not even meet because of the families that you reach through those others that work with you. And so I stand to or sit to encourage you one more time that the small things are really the big things that you're
Yeah.
doing, because families matter in the United States of America and across the world.
Yeah. I think, as I said at one point to you, and it wasn't to you, one of my things that I've said to people over the years is, families are the fabric of society. And if we cannot serve them better as they go through the most difficult points of their lives, people say, what are the worst things that you can do? What are the most difficult, stressful things that can happen? Buying a house, selling a house, having a baby, getting married, getting divorced. Death, I would also add in, but people don't think about that. So, the most highly stressful periods of your life, if we can't help them better through that process, then we're not helping.
You're very insightful. And I want to continue to encourage you to continue to do the great work that I believe you are doing. Do you have any regrets?
I don't. I wonder if I had, fumbled along myself, if I would have ended up here. I don't know. I think I don't know what I would have done if it had not been this. I think, early on, I always thought I would do something different in law. But as I said, family law kept pulling me back. I had times where I was actively looking to leave family and do something else, and an opportunity presented itself that pulled me back into doing family law. So I think my only regrets are maybe not pausing, and this is something I would just tell people that you should do, pausing and appreciating the outcome you achieve for someone, or when someone thanks you or congratulates you or appreciates what you have done, you know, take it. Don't just sort of say, oh, no, this is just what I do. It's okay. Take it, appreciate it. I had a client who recently invited me to a celebratory event that she was having for herself and a small group of people. She referred to her tribe. And one of the most humbling things for me was a lot of people in the room knew exactly who I was. I didn't necessarily know who everybody else was, and how much they all thanked me for having represented her and getting her through it. It was very humbling. It was uncomfortable because I just don't take praise well, and just eye-opening in the sense of, the small things have impact, right?
Indeed, they do. You said something so powerful with two simple words: pausing and appreciating. And as we step into our today, every morning, We need to reflect every day, every morning, pausing and reflecting, appreciating that we even woke up and to fulfill that purpose for which we have been called. And each of us has our own work and our own way to achieve that. Yours is through families and reaching families. And I so appreciate that God chose you with the humility that you have birthed. And so when you look back a little bit with all the experience that you've had in these years of law, what advice would you give to the younger you? And I know that the answer will resonate with some young people that are listening today.
I think the best advice I would have given to the younger me is worry less about what others think of you, worry more about what you think of yourself. Pause and appreciate everything that happens. I mean, it sounds cliche to say stop and smell the roses, but I think all too often in life, we just get on the hamster wheel and we just keep running. And at some point, you do need to stop and appreciate the happy, joyful moments or things you should be grateful about. And they give you power to continue. They give you the energy to continue. And even if it may be uncomfortable for you, you should just do it and pause and appreciate that. But I do think one of the bigger things is that worry less about what others think of you, worry more about what you think of yourself and what you can do, and have less doubt in yourself. Because if you're even thinking it's a possibility and that it's a good quality trait or something good about you, it's true. It's true. And embrace it.
That confidence, it's true. It's true. My gosh. Do you have children?
I do. I have a daughter.
And you will have grandchildren and great grandchildren and great grandchildren down the line.
We
What
hope.
pearls of wisdom will you drop today
Mm.
that are futuristically aimed at the great grandchildren that you want to pass on to help them unbox themselves sooner?
Yeah, I think that if you have a passion, follow it. I mean, I've had this conversation. My daughter's 21 in college, and I've had this conversation with a number of friends and colleagues, and even some of her friends, before they went to college. Don't worry about what you majored in college, unless you're really going to be a finance major or something. Don't worry about what you majored in college. Go experience college, grow up, become independent. And whatever you're going to end up doing, you'll end up doing. It will find you, you will figure it out. But no, very few people are in the field that they went to college for. I was a government and Russian major. I am now a family lawyer. There's no real connection. But I went to college. I got a good college degree. I learned to be independent. I got smarter about the world and things. And this is what life chose. Or maybe my mother a little bit as knowledgeable as she was. So I think follow your passion, and where you're meant to be will find you. I mean, I just remember friends of mine who were all worried about their kids applying to all these Ivy League schools and, what if they didn't get in and what if they didn't? I said, they're going to get in where they're meant to get in. They'll end up being where they're meant to be because they have something to learn or something to do in that place. And I think I think for that generation, I think they have to be a little less pressurized on themselves. There's a lot of life. So go out and do and enjoy it and live it. And if you have an opportunity to do something interesting, do it. School will be here, life will be here, work will be here, but that opportunity may not. So, and I think the best thing about being unboxed, Barbara, is really the idea that, if people tell you who you are and what you're supposed to be, don't let them.
Eh,
You
thank
know,
you.
you know, you know, don't, challenge them. Think about it. Be intelligent about it. But don't let others put you in the box because at some point you're going to be very uncomfortable in that box and you're going to have to figure out how you get out and actually be your true self.
And as you burst forth and flutter freely, it's an experience like none other. I have to
Yeah.
concur with you in regard to the college degree. I have multiple degrees as you do, and
Mm,
the first college degree I ever got was in special education,
mm,
and not one day have I ever served as a special education teacher.
right.
And so I do what I do now, but those experiences in training and in learning and going through the process of being educated was helpful to who I have become. And so it wasn't for naught. Your experiences in
Mm-mm.
college with that first degree wasn't for nothing. And so we
Nope.
sit where we do, pouring out ourselves, trying to help someone else that's younger to understand that there is something to the journey and to enjoy that journey. What do you say about enjoying the journey?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like if you don't, again, you arrive somewhere in your midlife, 40s, 50s, probably 50s, but 40s or 50s, and wonder how you got here.
Yeah.
And did you get here, or did somebody else make you get here or suggest this is where you should get to? And is it really what you want? And as people laugh, people call it a midlife crisis. I don't call it that. I call it a sort of come to reality. I mean, and aptly for this show, a come to Jesus moment. What,
Absolutely.
what, right? What was this all about? And let me pause and reflect and figure out what it is. But if you get to this point, and you look back and you say, "Oh, I should have done this," or "Wouldn't it have been great if I had done that?" Don't live with regrets. Don't live with regrets. You and I bonded over the fact that in my 50s, now do flying trapeze and glass
Yes.
blowing and all kinds of other things that people that would like to put me in a box would say, "What are you doing?" Well, I
Can
don't
you
know.
picture, can
When I
you
was
picture your lawyer as a flying trapeze artist? Wow.
right, and I say to people, on Friday nights, I go get high. I'm flying. So I said, I go do trapeze. It's better than happy hour. Or, it's happy hour staring at the sunset. So, but again, it goes back to those things that many people would say, "Are you crazy? What are you doing? Like, what is that?" And I have my daughter wondering if I'm having a midlife crisis. I'm like, no, I'm just not going to have people tell me I can't at this stage.
I love
I
that.
can.
You can keep the trapeze, but I love the idea of going
Yes.
and doing and
Right.
having your happy hour in the sunset, literally up there with the
Hmm.
sun. That's a beautiful thing. Is
Yeah.
there anything else that you would like us to know about you or your work? Any information that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would love to, Barbara. Thank you for that. I really hope that if anybody is watching this and they are contemplating an issue, a family law issue in particular, if it's divorce, before you embark on that haphazardly, have a conversation with a lawyer to see what that means. Have a conversation with your minister. Have a conversation with a therapist. Maybe go to marriage counseling to decide. People always assume because I'm a family lawyer, I'm just ready for people to come in and file those divorces and do whatever it is. I think you need to give it some thought because there are implications and there are outcomes and there are things that are affected that may not be what you want at the time. And there may be a better way to have a discussion. But even if it doesn't work, you've talked to the minister, you've talked to the therapist, and it's just time for whatever the reasons may be to get a divorce. Have the conversation, and at least you get to say to yourself, "I attempted, I made the effort, and I'm ready to do this, and I understand what might be entailed." And the second part of it, Barbara, really, and this has become my passion, is that don't assume you have to go to court. They have to hire the two lawyers who hate each other and just want to battle it out and spend money and raise emotions and make things aggravated. There are so many better ways. There are just so many better ways that you can get divorced or handle a family law issue that don't involve ripping the family apart, having everybody angry at everybody else, and a whole lot less wealthy at the end of it, that might actually get you an outcome that is better than you might otherwise get in a courthouse. And those are things like mediation and arbitration and collaborative law. They're out there. Find the right people and demand that things are done as you sort of want them handled. I have my worst I guess, recent experience is with a client who came back to see me. She had come in for a consultation about a year ago and had decided to go with another lawyer. Everybody gets to make their choices. I don't begrudge any of that. But she came back in to see me once again recently. And when I first saw her, she and her husband were probably going to do mediation. They were very cordial. They could have resolved things and worked things out. And when I saw her recently, she was ready to run him over in the street. And I said, what a failure. We took a family that could have resolved this amicably within reason, and now they are at complete odds. That's not a win. So figure out what your outcome is and what you want for you and your family, and then you get to tell your lawyer what that is, because we work for you. Thank you.
Wow. I won't dare try to repeat any of that. You said it all. And because this is a pre-recorded session, people can press rewind and listen to that all over again, because so many pearls of wisdom have flowed right out of your mouth. I need to have you give our audience ways that they can connect with you. There is someone who needs more of what you offer. Would you give contact information for our audience to know how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So you can find me if you Google my name, Carolyn N. Daly in New Jersey, family lawyer. You're going to find me. I'll come up at Cohen Seglius, which is where I'm currently working. And my office is in Newark, although the firm is headquartered out of Philly, and we have offices in several states, not every, but several states. And you can call my office, 973-474-5003, or you can also find me on LinkedIn. And so again, if you're on LinkedIn, run my name into a search and you'll find me. And my guess is I'm hopefully connected to you by somebody else, because I love that. And then reach out and get a hold of me. Love to talk about it more.
We know that LinkedIn is a great way to connect. We are connected on LinkedIn as well as on Unblinded, and those connections do matter, and friendships are made that help us navigate these circumstances in life that we find ourselves going through. And so our time has come to an end, but there may be other things that Carolyn and I are going to share together and have her come back and share some other insights with Family Matters. And so at this point, is there any other little nugget that you want to drop before we press the music button, so that our listeners who are challenged to step outside of the box will hear that one more nugget?
If somebody tells you you can't, you can. Go do it.
It's just that simple. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Carolyn Daly, for being our special guest today. Family does matter.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're quite welcome. Quite welcome. I would like for our listening audience to join us for about 30 minutes for our next episode of Unboxed on Purpose. We have refreshing conversations that hopefully will stimulate your mind and take you to the point in life that the Lord is taking you, sharing experiences that shape your future rather than just your now. Our episodes are released on Thursdays after 3 Eastern Standard Time on Favored by the Father Ministry YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, on the LinkedIn page, as well as on most podcast platforms. As we evolve, we are like a butterfly that comes out of a box, and we allow the Holy Spirit in us to come out and advance us to immeasurable heights in the Lord. So I ask you to fulfill your purpose and remain favored by the Father. See you next time.
In a world where faith takes root and blossoms, comes a journey of growth like no other. Blooming for Christ. A captivating exploration of spirituality and the remarkable parallels between a plant's journey and our own. Just as a seed must germinate to become a thriving plant, our spiritual timeline begins with a single decision. Through the insightful words of Reverend Barbara Brehon, this book takes you on a transformative quest. A journey of growth that echoes the stages of a plant's life. From the tender shoot of a young believer bravely facing the world, to the full bloom of faith experiences shared and cherished. As seeds of faith are sown, new believers are nurtured, and the cycle continues just as God intended. But the journey doesn't end there. As the plant matures, so does the believer, becoming God's chosen harvester in gardens of divine purpose. Reverend Brehon's guidance, rooted in scripture and wisdom, gently leads you through the seasons of your spiritual life. Join us on this journey of discovery and renewal, a journey that unveils the beauty of your faith and the transformative power of God's love. Blooming for Christ. Embrace your season of growth and let your faith bloom. Available now.